We're talking to Emilie Pine at the Cheltenham Literature Festival. Hello, Emilie.
Hi, how are you?
Okay. So you've written a very powerful autobiography.
Yeah, it's a collection of essays
Yeah.
about my life. Yeah,
Okay.
notes to self.
It's, where other people need 400 words to get the book going, you've used 21 words, and they ram into the reader like bullets. There's a lot of blood, there's a lot of bodily fluids, and you're leaving yourself very open. What is the driving force behind leaving yourself so open? You're vulnerable.
Well, so many of us go through really difficult experiences, and in that case, that first essay is about my dad being in hospital and he'd been an alcoholic all my life, and so he'd gone into liver failure and bodily fluids. I mean, there are a lot. Anybody who's been in hospital, anybody who has cared for a sick relative or somebody that they care about, you know that a lot of it is cleaning up shit. And here's the thing, we don't talk about it. And that's because we're talking about other things that are really important, such as how much we care about this person. But there is this underlying reality, and I feel that if we're not writing about it, and we're not reading it, and we're not talking about it, then we're not dealing with it and not acknowledging it, and how important and how burdensome in many ways, and how much work is going into it. And so I wanted to write the story that people weren't writing. And when I sent it to the publishers, Tramp Press, they said, there are so many things in here that I have thought or felt, and I have never seen them written on the page before.
Oh, okay. So it's not just about vulnerability, but you're reclaiming some lost ground, or you're reclaiming an area, or making a claim on an area, possibly.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that word claiming is really important, because by claiming it, by taking ownership of it, you elevate yourself above it just a little bit. You still feel vulnerable, but you actually give yourself a certain power over that vulnerability by articulating it, by narrating it, by owning it. And I think that's a really important thing that writing can do. Lots of things writing can't do. It can't change things, but it can help you to see things differently. And that for me was a real journey with the book, into accepting and acknowledging vulnerability, which I had always hidden before.
Yeah. Well, speaking of changing things and writing changing things, when you were small, your father made you promise or swear not to become a writer.
That's true.
And you knew even then, when you were saying the words, that you would do the opposite.
And well, if you ban a child from doing something, they will become dead set on it.
Okay. But then you lead a little bit into using processing pain through writing.
Yeah.
And is that the same thing then, in the sense that do you think you need to have some sort of pain to motivate the writing process?
No, I don't think so. And I think that I have written a lot about pain, but I have also written a lot about joy and love and togetherness and community. And if it were just about pain, it would be so difficult and tedious, and nobody wants that. Nobody wants to read that, and I don't want that to be my story either. And so I have been asked, do you have to have gone through some kind of trauma in order to? And I asked that question of myself. I remember thinking, have I suffered enough to write this? And this idea that you have to have some extreme experience in order for it to be a worthy story. I think no, we need to claim our everyday experiences as well, because those are what we deal with. Those are important and big for us as we're going through them.
Well, I mean, there's everyday experiences, and then in your book there's some extraordinary experiences.
Yes.
And if I take the passage that refers to holding your niece, your stillborn niece, there you describe something very poignant, and it's very personal. And in that passage there also, you create a sort of a feeling where you've had distance from the event. Is distance from the event something that's important for, filtering the whole thing and turning it into something usable in the written form?
I think you have to have some kind of perspective that is not completely in the moment in order to be able to understand it as a narrative. And when writing about my niece Elena, who was stillborn, I asked my sister permission, and I said, I think this has to be part of the story. I think I want to write about Elena and to claim her. But that was a couple of years after Elena had died, and so I felt like I did have some distance, and yet I had no distance at all, because how could I ever have distance from holding my beautiful little niece who was not breathing? Never. And somehow that's the personal side of things, but the writer's job is to turn that into prose on the page. And for me, actually trying to capture
Yeah.
the intensity and the fact that I will never be over that, and I will never forget it, and I will never have emotional distance from it. That was the way to make that that writing true to the experience.
Yeah, okay, yeah. You also lecture.
Yeah.
You're a literature professor,
Yeah.
you have a doctorate in literature. I don't know if you're a professor.
I am associate professor of modern drama.
Okay. And we have a biography that's exciting. It's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's Grady Tripp like we've never seen him before. Is there a novel on the way from you? A novel as a fiction of some sort? Because we see you have the prowess. You can write.
Well, I really love that I found a voice in nonfiction, and that for me was really important. Some people asked me when I was writing notes to self, did I think about fictionalizing some parts of it as a way of protecting myself, I guess, or. And I thought, no, the entire point is that it is real, that it is true, and that I stand over everything. And I think nonfiction has an impact and a power because we know that there is something at stake if you write about it. It's not that there isn't something at stake in fiction there, but it's a different quality different thing that you are risking. So I hugely admire novelists. I think fiction looks like a really difficult thing to do, and I really enjoy writing as myself.
Okay. So lastly, then I'll take a theme: patriarchy.
Okay,
because
it's pretty big.
Yeah, it is, but it's very relevant to your autobiography. It's your father, and we find out that he's reformed in your book. In a way, your timing or chronology of the publishing of the book has coincided with the referendum on abortion in Ireland. So, in a way, the book parallels the patriarchy. In the book is parallel to a sort of patriarchy that has become reformed in Ireland. Have you seen a parallel there somewhere?
Yeah, I do. I mean, the book doesn't come out of a vacuum.
No.
You know, a lot of women are now finding space to tell their stories. And in fact, in relation to the referendum on abortion, women talking about their experiences didn't just change minds or emotions or hearts. It has changed how women's bodies are legislated in Ireland, and that's an incredible power and an incredible outcome. And even a few years ago, I don't think we could have foreseen that, the way in which that would come to pass. So it's a wonderful place to be. Yes, I have been inspired by other women, but it doesn't have to be just recent. I think back to 1997 and reading Nuala O'Fallon's Are You Somebody? The impact that book had on me. And that was, I think, one of the first times I read a book and thought nonfiction really matters. And my life is very different to Nuala's, but I thought I recognise this experience, and the solidarity that you get from that is really powerful. And so it's not just in the last few years. A lot of women have been doing it for a really long time, and now we are seeing a broader fruition of that, and that's really exciting. I think it's really exciting as a reader because, well, I mean, we got bored, right? We got bored with a single narrative, and now we have a lot more, and it's a lot more diverse, and women are just the tip of the iceberg.
And it's a good thing.
Yeah, a really good thing.
Emilie Pine, thank you very much for talking to us.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Cheers.